welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. We're so glad you could attend. Come inside, come inside. Now, what band? I'll let Tony Finn guess first. What band do those lyrics belong to?
Queen, maybe.
You're in the right era. It was one of my favorite bands of all time. I know
the song.
Probably the three best musicians technically ever put together.
Well,
one was a tremendous keyboardist, which I've played piano for a lot of years. Tony Mejia, any guesses?
I know the song.
I looked it up here, so I know who it is, and I can say that I've never heard of that, but I have heard the song and the lyrics reference. I've never heard of the group.
You've never heard of the band, really?
Who is it?
Emerson, Lake, and Palmer.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, that's because Tony's only 25. He wouldn't know anything about Emerson, Lake, and Palmer.
He looks 25 today.
Not true. I'm in my 40s.
Emerson, Lake, and Palmer. You think those are the three best musicians you ever put together, huh? That's a bold statement.
Talent-wise, like technically, I don't think there was three better together. There's better, but not three together.
I see.
What about Cream?
That's on the list.
I mean, the Traveling Wilburys, that just puts those three to shame.
Carlos Santana,
right?
But that
how about the Traveling Wilburys? How about Clapton?
Well, Clapton's definitely on there.
How about who sang Pretty Woman?
Roy Orbison.
Exactly. Roy Orbison, Clapton. I think it was Greg or one of the Allmans. They did two albums. Maybe it was just kind of a something. It was a project of theirs. But I'm a big Orbison fan. I think he was nobody in the millennials or anything like that would know who Roy Orbison is. For the most part, I don't think he gets near the credit. He was a good songwriter. Wasn't a great singer, I didn't think. But
I'll conclude the educational portion of the show.
Yeah.
With and I hope this musician's still alive. His name is Jean-Luc Ponty.
Yes, he's alive.
Violinist, virtuoso violinist, and he was the first guy to change the violin to electronic violin, which made the orchestra nation just go crazy batshit. But if you ever get a chance, if he's still playing, I saw him I think 5 years ago, and he was in his late 70s then. The technical ability of the man, even at that age, is mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. So that concludes the educational portion of our show. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
Who's the most recent electric violinist? Not recently, it's probably not the, but played the electric violin. And these guys he played in a rock and roll band that they're not uber famous, but they made their money. And his name was, well, I'll say his name, then you tell me what band he was in. That was it's Ragsdale. Do you know who David Ragsdale is?
I don't.
I go to Yo-Yo Ma for my violin.
Okay, he played
there you go.
for a band named Kansas. Are you familiar with Kansas?
Yes, I am. I loved Kansas. He was with Kansas.
That's right, David Ragsdale.
I feel embarrassed now.
That's all right. Why should you? I mean, there's not a whole lot of electric violinists.
That's true.
I can transition this back into sports with a trivia question for you guys. Who pitches for the Atlanta Braves and also shares a name with a flute-playing rock star?
Charlie Morton? Guess not.
Ian Anderson is the flute player.
Yeah. Yes. Ian Anderson with Jethro Tull, right?
Doesn't he also pitch for the Atlanta Braves?
Yes, he does. I say it all the time when I did shows. I would say, listen,
so Tony Finn wins the prize.
Thank you. Well, thank you.
And we're back to talking about sports. Hallelujah.
Good job.
Yeah. And that's another great song Ian Anderson starts out. Sitting on a park bench.
Yes, I know.
Eyeing little
another
girls.
classic. Well, let's see. We're going to do a classic part 2, and it's the John Ryan NBA angle of the day. That's about the most I've ever boasted in my life, I think.
Oh my! There's most you've boasted in the last 5 minutes, maybe.
Well, I mean, I'm therapy's working. So we do have this was aired on the NBA tip-off show on Wager Talk, and for those that didn't have the pleasure of seeing that, Joe Ranieri does a lot better job reading this off than I can. But for today, it's the Grizzlies versus the Spurs. We're going to bet on road favorites facing a host with a losing record, and that host is coming off a double-digit road win. The three of those combined means regression. 40-25 against the spread for 62% of the last 5 seasons. And if this is a conference matchup, which I believe it is, it hits 67% the last 5 seasons. So take the Grizzlies and lay the points. Does anybody want to comment on that? Disagree?
Well,
tell me what's wrong with it, why it's not going to win tonight, or why it's going to win because I said it's going to win.
I would just say this about that. Don't you find it strange? Doesn't anyone find it strange that 2-3 weeks ago, Memphis was the next best thing to slice bread? And now recently they've been 2-3. Their offense has disappeared. And, 3 weeks ago, they would have been 7-point favorites at San Antonio.
Well, I don't find it strange because they've dealt with COVID. They've had Kyle Anderson and Desmond Bain and Brandon Clark.
Who hasn't dealt with COVID, though?
Well, that's true, but they in particular have, and they were running hot. And they've done it all without Dylan Brooks. But Desmond Bain is back tonight to bring it back to my point. Bain's back and Brandon Clark's back. We'll see if they play. They cleared protocols yesterday. So we should see at least the Grizzlies have no excuse if they continue.
Well, I've been calling them a mirage. That stint where they went from being maybe one of the worst defense teams in the first 6 weeks of the season to all of a sudden morphing into Brooks Robinson with the pair of tennis shoes on was a mirage. And this is a pedestrian team. For a while, they were what? They were number 2 or in the conference as the best segment. This is a pedestrian team, and if a team can defend the rim 4 to 14 feet away, then you're not even going to beat Memphis. You're going to beat them up.
Can I interest you in a wager that they hold off the Mavericks for the Southwest Division title?
No, I won't. Well, the Southwest Division title, I think, is more appropriately placed in Pac-12. That's what I would say.
The Pac-12.
Right. Yeah, that's about
is that code for something? I thought he was talking about the NBA.
No, well, I know he was talking about the NBA, and I'm telling you that's where that division belongs.
I think Pac-12 is code for redheaded stepchild.
Yeah.
Well, the Atlantic Division was the redheaded stepchild of the NBA.
What's that?
It's not. Now they have power teams.
Oh. Well, no, I would disagree with you. Although, I would say this. I'll tell you what. I'll take that wager. What do you want to wager?
I mean, let's figure it out. But yes, I'm definitely in on that.
Okay, I'll take Dallas. I think. Listen, Dallas is going to get. They're going to do not well. You know what? Now that all of a sudden just hit me upside my head, I just remembered that they did lose their sixth man yesterday. So,
Tim Hardaway Jr.
Huh?
I said, yeah, Tim Hardaway Jr.
Yeah, right. I did just now remember that. Because I was going to say, listen, Dallas is really – I said that they were going to be – the way they were playing the first 2 months of the season, I thought they would struggle to be to not be a playing team, But somehow, some way, Jason Kidd, got them to buy into some playing defense and shooting mid-range shots more than they shoot from distance from the 3 line. And he actually convinced Luka to not have to play 40 minutes a game too. So I would have said that if they continue to get better. As long as Porzingis was healthy, then I thought they were competitive. But I think that's a big loss, Tony. So I might agree with you now. We'll think about it. We'll talk about it.
I'll give you time to think about that. And look, the Mavericks did what they needed to do over the last few weeks, and
yes, they
took advantage of the the Grizzlies being a little shorthanded, won both meetings
Yep.
to kind of bridge that gap a little bit and give themselves a chance post All-Star break to win the Southwest. They were a heavy favorite to win the Southwest. I think I'm getting at least plus 250 for Memphis to win that division. That was my preseason bet. But we will talk about it.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, I like that.
I kind of wanted to get involved. I feel left out. I was going to wager tonight Dallas over whoever they're playing, and I will wager a Meat Lover's Pizza and a 6-pack of Irish Amnesia IPAs, West Coast IPAs.
I don't look. Listen. My marijuana plants they sent me a message and said we're tired of IPAs.
I have no interest in a marijuana pizza. That would be dumb to do because that would just make you eat even more.
I prefer a filtered wheat that's a little lighter than that.
All right, so we'll move on to the very quickly. This is for Mr. Mejia's purpose. This was the PGA pool of players. My first entry into the DraftKings, like we do usually on Wednesdays, but the tournament started today. It's a 5-day event at Torrey Pines. And Mito Pereira. How do you do that again?
Pereira.
Yeah. Well, he came up second on the list. And Taylor Moore, I'm interested to see who he is because hopefully he's not dead last. I can quick do a search here. There's a big number of entries in this event. He's in. He's not in real good shape. He's +4 on 14, and afternoon round on the South course has taken its toll. Mickelson's +4. There's some serious names here that are over par, and I believe it's a 154 person event. But the leader, who I think finished yesterday, it's hard to tell. Michael Thompson shot 8 under, 64. And Billy Horschel's actually on the course, and some guy named Ricky Fowers is being resurrected after 2 years of a disappearance on the PGA Tour. He's in third, -6. Probably changed golf club manufacturers. And I guess the other big news everybody's enamored about, which I could care, what's that saying, 2 sheets to the wind or 3 sheets to the wind? Bryson has a 5-degree driver. Who cares?
I don't.
Nope, not me.
I mean, it's a hockey stick. That has less loft than probably his putter does.
Yeah.
All right, well, that concludes the PGA portion of our show, which is always the most entertaining and anticipated segment of the Manny's Irish Pub Sports Betting Show. All right, so now let's move on to the one college game that I wanted to hear you guys break down, and that would be Oklahoma taking on West Virginia. And this is a game on the Daily Dime show on Sportsmemo TV that I hosted with Rocky Atkinson and Don Buster, and we tore the daylights out of this thing. West Virginia is the 2.5-point favorite tonight, but I'll make it short and sweet. My lean right now, I haven't gone to the window, and maybe you guys can convince me not to, or maybe you guys can convince me to do so, is the under. The under right now is 130. It was a little bit lower earlier today, so it's actually been rising a little bit. West Virginia's 13-5, 8-10 against the number. Sooners are 12-7 on the year. They're in 9th place in the Big 12, and there's only, I believe, 10 teams in the Big 12. Kind of a trick question. So both these teams really need a win here, I think. Let's start with Tony Finn, then we'll go Jesse, and then Tony. On your thoughts about this game.
Well, I would say that I would think the unders. What's the latest number? I know what it opened up at. What, about 129? What did it open up at?
I thought it was actually lower than that. Let me pull it up.
No, it was 130. It was 130. 129, 130. It opened 131, and now we're at 129.5 to 130s with 130.5 at Bet Online.
I'll just say the reason I said 129 is because that's what my numbers would have placed that at, and maybe even 130, only because 3 or 4 years ago I would have said that you have to back. I'd say if these teams were playing even 4 years ago, I would have said you had to back the Mountaineers and the under, simply because it's in my opinion, and I've been there probably 5 times in my life, only 5 times, and there's guys listening to the show, or you guys have been there 100 times more, but it's a difficult venue to play in, and Bob Huggins' defense in that venue when it's full and excited is uncomfortable. It is 40 minutes of miserable existence if you're the opposing team. It is. I mean, I played a lot. I didn't play high level high school basketball, but the level I played at, there was a couple teams that were just miserable to play against. They played ferocious, in your face, physical defense, and there was never 1 second where you could relax. Not 1 second. Very similar to Texas Tech. If you saw that Texas Tech Kansas game the other night, very similar to that game. I mean, Texas Tech's a good team, not because it's uber talented, but these guys are good athletes, but just defensively, it's Huggins doesn't have the best team this year that he's had in the past decade. But I would agree with you. So it's an underplay for me. I'm either under on West Virginia, or I'm not in that room. I'm not in that room tonight.
Yeah, Uriah, what do you think, Jesse?
I'm going to agree with Tony. I guess I see where you're going with the under, but I actually prefer the lean towards West Virginia. I mean, 2.5 for a home team. Oklahoma's really struggled to score points. I'm sure that factored into what you're looking at with the under. And yeah, I mean, it just seems like 2.5 is a pretty nice line with a home team that all indications are that there's really no indication that Oklahoma is going to come in and win this game outright.
No, and just one more thing, and that is, this is not the best offensive. This West Virginia team is not the best offensive team either. If they listen, if you saw these, he went to Allen Fieldhouse and absolutely got embarrassed. Since then, Huggy Bear didn't like that very much. Although he did say after the game, he said McCormick's the number one. He's a first round pick. He's 8 foot tall. He can run 10, 500-meter dash and shoot free throws. He said, who wouldn't want this kid? So that said, a lot of it had to do with the fact that this West Virginia team is not the best offensive team as well. So, but that's Big 12. That's good basketball. Probably the best conference in college basketball as far as balance, top to bottom, and ability. So. Yeah. But there's some teams in that Big 12 conference that that belong. They should do guest appearances on the Fred Flintstone show on the Flintstones, and that I'm going to take 25 seconds just to get across the timeline, and then when I get across the timeline, I'm going to call a timeout because I'm tired. That kind of shit, I don't know. That's not what I consider basketball. Thank God, we have a shot clock.
You look at West Virginia's last 3 games. It's kind of a spot where they really need a win here. They've just come off 3 straight losses at home to number 1 ranked Baylor, and then on the road against 2 other ranked teams, to top teams in the conference. And now they have an opportunity to snap that losing streak in a match that they can win. They deserve to be the favorite. It looks like a good spot to back the home favorite to me.
Tony Mejia, what do you think about this matchup?
I mean, I would lean under. My number was significantly higher, but then you dive into it and you see that Oklahoma's running out of gas a little bit. This is a situation for Porter Moser, who's not really used to losing because he's been in the Horizon League, and Loyola Chicago was dominating that league for the last 3 to 5 years where he's been there. And then you've got the Sooners coming off a 25 turnover game against Baylor. So from that standpoint, you're going on the road off a sloppy game. West Virginia really is physical and gets into you. So the pace will probably be slow, methodical. Tanner Groves, the best Oklahoma player, comes over from Eastern Washington after their tournament run last year, and this is a different world. You go from Big Sky to the Big 12, and it's a grind every night. So my leans would probably be West Virginia at home, laying the possession, and I like the under as well. The Press Virginia games are days are over, at least on pause, because they don't have the depth to do it, but they still pester you and bother you physically. So long as we don't get a foul fest, you'll probably see under 130 points. Yeah.
How did Grove score 36 points against Kansas last year in the tournament? I mean,
they ran that up tempo system where come down to the court and
I've watched him play a couple times, and I think he's an interesting player. He's an entertaining player to watch for certain because he's animated and one of those guys that should be a defensive rush into the NFL. Where your team's down 50 points and you get a sack, and then you start doing your dance, and you're all excited, and you have to kind of grab him by the earlobe and drag him over the side and say, "Listen, dude, you don't do your dance when we're down 50 points."
I mean, he can shoot. He's a rhythm player, and they obviously let him get in a rhythm last season at Eastern Washington. The level of play the level of competition wasn't as high, but with guys like that, if you come in with confidence, and you get your rhythm, it doesn't matter who's against you. And he certainly lit up Kansas, and that's one of the reasons why he's at Oklahoma. But it's the grind of it. Like you have to deal with a defense that knows how to scout you and play you, in conference night after night. I think it's probably predictable that the Sooners have hit the wall a little bit.
Good stuff, guys. I'm going to segue over to the NBA here so I can talk some live in-game betting strategy and see what you guys think of the game and also my idea for the over. And we're looking at the Sacramento Kings at the Atlanta Hawks. It seems, Tony Mejia, you have a screen in front of you with live odds. It was 233.5 earlier in the day. Where do you see it now?
Let me go to that real quick. This is what you wanted. What now? The
Kings versus Hawks.
Kings Hawks right now is 230s across the board, down from the 233.5 you referenced. Circa has actually gotten down under 230 at 229.5, but essentially it's a 230 everywhere. And my handicap on this is it depends on De'Aaron Fox. I haven't seen the official word on that, even though I have the injury report up right here. And according to the 530, Fox is still questionable with his left ankle soreness that kept him out, the other night. So if he's in, then the over and the Kings have a chance to cash. If he's out, there's a reason why the Celtics destroyed them last night. He gets them easy buckets. He's the guy that's a slump buster. So if he plays, I don't anticipate Trae Young staying in front of him. So maybe we do get a faster pace. If he doesn't play, then I would like the Hawks and the.
Now, the other player I thought was interesting was Bogdanovich, was listed as questionable, and early this morning it did not look good that he would be playing, but now he's probable. He was sidelined with right knee soreness, and now he's likely to return. Do you think that helps the over at all, or is it a non-factor?
I mean, he's more of an offensive player. It helps their depth, so probably.
Well, here's the idea I had for this game, and I may have to rethink it based on what you said with Fox being in or not being in. But I noticed that in the first quarter scoring per game, Atlanta is 15th in the association at 27.9. Sacramento allows 26.8 in the first quarter, which ranks 22nd. First quarter scoring for the Kings, they are very slow, 27th, averaging 28.6. And Atlanta does not do a good job in points allowed either, allowing 27.9. So it seems to me that these teams would get off to a slower than expected start based on a 230-point total. In the second quarter, Atlanta is number 3 in the NBA, 28.7. Sacramento is number 4 in second quarter scoring at 28.5. Third quarter scoring, number 1 is the Atlanta Hawks at 29.4. Kings are ranked 15th at 27.3. Fourth quarter scoring, the Kings are 13th at 26.3. And Atlanta is a messed up 23rd at 25.4. But with a total at 233, what I did present today on a show is that, bet 50% pre-flop at that number, 233, 233.5, and then look in the first quarter only to get 228.5 and then 225.5. So now we've gone down 3 points. So, based on the implied volatility of the game, those numbers will have to slide down to 225.5 and 223.5, if my math is right. You think that's a wise strategy? Assuming that Fox is in the game. That's. I want to hear what Jesse has to say about this first.
Yeah. I mean, I guess my opinion on the game is, I had my eyes on Atlanta. Really wanted to play Atlanta for this game, but what scared me off was the Kings getting shellacked in Boston. And I don't like betting against teams that are coming off of a headline-grabbing loss like that, where they might be motivated to show up tonight, which they wouldn't normally be on the back end of a back-to-back. And, if they show up, it's a competitive game. It's more likely to go over. But I'm really iffy on that. So I'm a hard pass on everything to do with this game, just based on a lot of the uncertainties of whether or not the Kings are going to show up.
Yeah, I have to admit, I like the over a lot less than I did, around 11 a.m. this morning. But nevertheless, that was the betting strategy I set out to do. Mr. Finn, what do you think of this game? I mean, you don't even have to comment about the in-game stuff.
Well, I was going to say, the way you broke down, if I'm looking at quarters and points scored, et cetera, I'm typically looking at my philosophy or my theory is that for the most part, quarter differentials have to do with rotations. And when a coach, pulls his starters for that 3 or 4 minute or 2 or 3, whatever the case may be, for that R&R and that pine time. So there are certain teams that are absolutely less than in second quarters and fourth quarters, especially at the beginning of those 2 quarters, all because their bench stinks. In Sacramento's case, here it is. They live, and they die on rim points. And without Fox, they are. Let me tell you something. Without Fox, they are a play against tonight. And I've been watching. I'm waiting. So for some reason I was muted. I was telling you that he was still a question mark as if Bogdanovich is in. He's in. It's difficult. First off, when you do that in-game live, when you do a pre-flop that has a plan to follow, and you're making assumptions on, or at least projections on what's going to happen, right? Then those all work, especially if your presumptions and your projections have a fragment of accuracy. So, but this is the game you absolutely play over if Fox is playing. That number, guys, the drop 3 points, and that number is telling me that he's not playing. That's just my opinion.
I agree.
And just so we know, basically Alvin Gentry said as of 20 minutes ago, he's a true game time decision. So he's going to warm up and try to play. They also lost Terrence Davis last night. He's out for indefinitely due to a wrist tendon injury, and he was playing really well. So, you basically have, if Fox is back, then Halliburton doesn't have to be as aggressive, and they can challenge Bogdanovich, who's coming back in the starting lineup, see how that ankle really looks. I think we will see an aggressive start to that game. If no Fox, that changes it completely. So you really can't bet it until there's definitive word on Fox, at least in my opinion. I'm not touching it.
Yeah,
you guys got any opinion on Buddy Hield versus Trae Young, a potential Oklahoma rivalry, or bee in the bonnet, feather in the cap that is going to motivate Buddy Hield to have a big game tonight?
I mean, shoot, who knows what motivates Buddy Hield? That guy, hot and cold, depending on the hour. But certainly he's a difference maker, and he is hot. But he's been wishy-washy for the last few weeks. Really started 2022 off nicely. Hit a couple of like 5 threes against the Lakers, I think. But since then,
pissed at the Lakers. He's pissed at the Lakers. He's supposed to be a Laker.
Exactly.
Right? Instead of Westbrook. So.
Him and Fox started off the new year really well, to the point where you took notice and said, "Oh, I like the overs a little bit. I like the Kings fight. I like the fact that Alvin Gentry's got his hooks into them, and they're at least going to run." But yeah, they haven't been able to establish any momentum.
I'm just pulling up the player props just out of curiosity for that.
I just thought that Hield might have sort of some animosity against Trae Young. Wasn't Hield like the golden son of Oklahoma, and then the next year Young comes in and pretty much steals his thunder kind of thing?
Well, he came in a couple years later, I think. But
yeah. He, if anything, I would think that they're tight because I don't think they overlapped. So I mean, I have no idea.
I guess rivalry is a better word rather than animal.
They're two different players, as you well know. The reason Hield's not playing much is that this offensive philosophy is Sacramento takes the ball to the rim. They drive. They don't dish much. They drive and challenge the bigs of the opposition. Tonight, listen, if Capella was still out, he'd been back a couple games, right? If he was out, I'm all over Sacramento. I don't care what they did last night. But if you have a capable big man that can defend the rim to any degree, Sacramento's they're suspect. They're a liability on your investment chart, for the night. So good game. I like Sacramento. I like following. I liked them yesterday. I think Tony, you were on the show yesterday. I know you were, but they were my dog. I liked them at 9 points, and I looked up and they were down by 30, and it was still the first quarter. I said, "Well, that figures." So
I was on the under, so that actually worked out. But it was 120. They almost lost by 60. So
right, it was one of those games where I think that's a pretty good indicator right there, guys. Without a healthy Fox, that offense doesn't work. Halliburton is nuts, and when Fox isn't in, Halliburton's he's almost lost. So
yeah, well, he's at heart a distributor, and then he's just got to be more aggressive without him, and that's not quite the role that suits him best.
Right, I agree.
Well, guys, I think for the first time, this was we got through all the topics I wanted to cover, and we did it in less than 2 hours.
Well, 2 hours? Oh yeah, okay. I was gonna say, have we been on that long? You guys are a lot of fun.
Oh, during the summer we had one that was over 2 hours. It might have been 2 or 3 that were
way too many of those.
Yeah, but it was a blast, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm still trying to catch up from those 2 hour shows, and so it's almost next summer.
He'll be
in the summer.
Hey, Tony Finn, are we having a lockout or what in your sport?
What?
Are we getting a lockout in your sport or what?
No, we're not getting a lockout. Have you not seen the movie Replacements?
Yes.
It's going to be the baseball version.
Replacement baseball players? Good Lord. Come on. Don't depress me.
When did the tryouts happen? I'll be there.
Yeah, me too. I can still throw. I can still throw 81. I can't throw what I used to, but 81. Yeah, well,
that's what we'll be forced to bet on. People like you.
Well, just call me. Tell me where your money is, and I'll make sure you win.
Who's the golf team? Carmine, Nick Borman, and myself is the Wagertalk golf team. So, can you imagine if we had like a warm up to the golf tournament where Tony Finn's on the mound trying to strike me out?
Well, I wouldn't be trying to strike you. I'd be trying to. I mean,
that would go viral.
I mean, I'd say, John, make sure you got that the helmet with the face guard on it because they're coming after you.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking of that. Your control might not be the best anymore, and I might not be able to get out of the way of an 81-mile-an-hour fastball anymore.
Oh, my control's never been any good. Never. No, that was part of my. It was one of my assets. Is that you surely didn't dig in.
Now, were you a lefty or a righty?
It depends on what side of the plate you're batting from.
Jesus. On that 3-2 count pitch.
I'm right-handed.
Yeah, well, that's okay if you buzz my tower then.
I am a little ambidextrous. I bat left-handed, and I can shoot left-handed. I didn't swing. My golf swing on the left hand is pathetic.
Golf is a good walk spoiled. Jacobson's book. But anyway, that's why don't we go around the horn here with our best bet for the show.
All right.
And if you don't have one, you can have a lean. But I am going to. This is a pizza money bet. Like on a scale of 1 to 5%, I'll put 2% on the over in the Atlanta Hawks game at the current price, and then I will look to add. What did I say? 2 units? Yes, 2 units. 2% current price right now. Then I'll look to add 1% at each of the following levels of 226 and what did I said 225 and a half and 223 and a half. That's what I said, right? Previously.
Yes.
Yes. So that's right. That equates to what I said this morning, given the shift in the market. And that's going to be my best bet. And we'll see how that rolls. Why don't we go to Jesse next, and then Tony Finn, and then Mr. Mejia.
All right, I'm looking at a game in the Big 12 since we already talked about one of them. The other big game in the Big 12 is Oklahoma State hosting Iowa State. Of course, Iowa State got off to that great start, but conference play has not been kind to the Cyclones. They just can't score. Their offense is atrocious, and they're coming up against an Oklahoma State team that has held 5 straight opponents to 60 points or less. Probably an average of low to mid 50s they've been giving up. Neither one of these teams are great offensively. Both these teams are great defensively, and the opening line was 123, got bet up as high as 128, and I'm just going to go with the under.
Very good. Very good. Let's see what Tony Finn has for us.
Let me pull something up so I can. I was going to just tell you what I like, but I think if I'm efficient to any degree, which is debatable in most people's orbit, I'm going to play this. I like Charlotte, and I like the Charlotte game over the total tonight. Okay, there's some question marks. There's still some question marks as far as the Indianapolis rotations. They are still fairly they've got a lot of question marks. Let's put it that way. But Charlotte's 0-8 this year in back-to-backs. 2-6 against the spread. 0-8. They've had 8 second legs, and they're 0-8. Have not won a game. In those games, they allowed 100. The first back-to-back, they allowed 140 to Boston. Right? 113 in the second game of the Cavs, who that's a big number. That's a good number for them, especially second game early in the season. I could go on and on. They allowed 126 to the Lakers. They allowed most recently in their last one, they allowed 124 to Washington, and allowed 143 the game before that to another. Long story short, they've allowed 125, 126 points per game in the second tilts, in the second legs of their back-to-backs. And defensively, they went on a little tear run recently where they played their defense was just good enough, guys, that they were able to not only win, but get covers in a lot of those wins. And they really have been a team that, if you look at their record, it's a lot of that has to do with offensively they outperformed a defense that's porous, worse than but less than. And tonight in Indianapolis needs to have they're not going to be great defensively anyway. There's no Sabonis. There's no Brogdon. There's no Turner. And what Charlotte will do is will be attacking the rim. And with no Hayward, you're going to see a lot of Rozier. I like Rozier when Hayward's not in the game. Rozier, in fact, there's my pick, and that is over the Charlotte. And I like the player prop on Rozier's points, assists, and totals. I can't give you the latest number on that. I looked at it this morning, but I did like it, and that would be, unless something obscure has happened and the books have gotten ridiculous, I like the over on that.
I love it. I love it. Let's get our anchor for the show, Anthony Mejia, and see what he has special for us.
All right. Well, I will hook up my friend Tony Finn with his info. Points, rebounds, assists over 28.5, laying 125 on juice at DraftKings. That's the number. Okay. And I have that up because I was looking at LaMelo Ball props earlier, which I have popped out there. And then official news from Woj right after the NBA show that we taped broke is Gordon Hayward is in COVID protocol. So he'll be out for the foreseeable future now. And they'll look to bounce back without him after that disastrous loss yesterday in Toronto that I lost 4% on because I saw no Van Vliet, no Scotty Barnes, and I jumped all over Charlotte, basically money line. And they gave up 39 points in the first quarter, so that's how that went. We'll see how the adjustments James Borrego makes to try to beat the shorthanded Pacers tonight. My best bet, I guess, will be on the Orlando Magic, which is also available on my Twitter feed at Mejia Dinero, and was that's my dog of the day. Clippers and Magic. Orlando, a favorite for the first time all season, and I don't like them in that role. I don't like them typically in any role, but especially when you're telling me that I got to lay points to back them. And look, they're coming off a win over the Bulls the other night. They blew them out. Wendell Carter Jr. is playing well. They've got Cole Anthony back. Jalen Suggs, since coming back off of his wrist issue, has been a different player. He's a lot more aggressive, and that's really good for Orlando. They got Terrence Ross off the bench. They're trying to showcase. Hopefully somebody comes in and gets him because he'll be an asset to a contender. So, yeah, the Magic have some pieces, but I'm not laying points with them. So give me the Los Angeles Clippers. And if they're down 20 at the half, you know you're going to win that bet because that's where they like teams. And the fact that Reggie Jackson, Amir Coffey, Terrence Mann, Ivica Zubac are all playing major minutes and are happy about it because those are guys that are typically at the end of your bench. No Marcus Morris Sr. tonight. He's out again due to a personal issue. I just like the Clippers' continuity more than I like Orlando, especially if you're telling me that I got to lay points. So take the bucket now. It's up to 2 with LA in Orlando.
And Orlando's weak. Orlando's pretty soft there in the paint. So I just think they're soft. Mo Bamba's not even tall, but I like that play. I like somebody who's going to jump on the Clippers after yesterday's performance.
Yeah.
I do too.
Yeah,
I do too. Well, gentlemen, we reached the end of the Manny's Irish Pub Show for Wednesday, January 26, 2022. I thank you very much for the time that you spend with me and invest in the show. Thanks to everyone who's watching this show. And as my always say, bet with your head, not over it, ever. And may all the wins be yours.
Moderation.
Excessively.